Why I chose to volunteer, part 2. I actually had an uncle who lived alone. He'd never been married, didn't have any children, and was totally alone for the last part of his life. He actually looked after his mother, which was my grandmother, in his earlier days. Now, he was in his 80s, and I visited him as much as I could. I lived 3 hours away from him, so it wasn't that often. He was a twin of my mum. My mum has passed away. They used to spend a lot of time with each other, but now that mum's gone, he basically was alone. Anyway, I started to get concerned about him living alone and being of the age he was. So I said to him, look, I'll give you a ring every day just to make sure everything's going well. And that's what I did. I rang him every day just to touch base and make sure that he was okay. Well, anyway, one day I rang up and there was no answer. I kept ringing and ringing and ringing, and it was actually during COVID, which was a very bad time, and we were all restricted to staying home, basically. Anyway, after about 18 hours of not being able to get him, I actually got in the car and I drove to where he lived. Yes, it was against the law, but I didn't care at the time because I knew in my heart that there was something very wrong. So I drove there and I knocked on the door, I knocked on the window. I actually looked in the garage and his car was there, so that indicated that he was home. Now, the thing was, I didn't have a key to his property, which wasn't good, but because he was a very proud man and lived alone, I wasn't about to ask him for one because he mightn't have appreciated it, the fact that I was asking for a spare key. But anyway, to cut a long story short, I had to call the police. The police come. They pushed the door down. We went inside and there he was on the floor. He couldn't get up. He'd been there for a day and a half. So we called the ambulance. He was alive and he was talking, but he was in a very bad shape. Anyway, we called the ambulance and to cut a long story short, he went to hospital and spent I think it was a couple of months there until he recovered. Well, then when he went home, his life changed. He now had to have home care. He had Meals on Wheels. In the hospital, they'd found out that he hadn't even bathed for months because when they washed him, brown actually come off his whole body. So he probably hadn't have bathed for, I don't know how long, months. But anyway, because that was happening, we decided to get a person to come and make sure that he bathed at least twice a week. Anyway, that changed his life. And also, he was also on medications. He'd never been on medications in his life. Now he was on about 6 or 7 of them, so that didn't go down well with him either. So the nurses had to come and make sure that he took the medications and to also change the bandages on he was injured from in his fall. Anyway, this went on for probably 12 months. And he slowly started to gain his confidence again and didn't want to have the nurses anymore. So he cut the nurses out and he slowly cut back on people coming because he was a very stubborn man. And anyway, the same thing happened again. I was still calling him every day, even though he was having the visitors. And on this occasion, actually, it was the Meals on Wheels. They knocked on the door and he didn't answer, so they rang me to find out where he was. Anyway, I hopped in my car and went to his property, which was 3 hours away. and because they weren't about to, I mean, they called the police, but they had, I don't know, there was a problem with them calling the police. Anyway, I got there, and anyway, I rang the police straight away. Oh no, actually, I had a key, that's right. I think I did have a key this time. I've said it wrong. I had a key. Because of his other fall, he did give me a key, so I was wrong about the police. Anyway, it definitely was the Meals on Wheels people that rang me. So I hopped in my car, went there, used the key, and there he was on the floor again. But he was worse this time. It was really bad. He'd fallen completely backwards, hit the back of his head, and I was really concerned for him this time, really concerned. Anyway, I called the ambulance, and they took him to hospital, and yes, he stayed there for quite a while, but this time he wasn't coming home. It was time for him to make the move to the retirement home. Well, because of COVID, I wasn't able to go around and see what the retirement homes were like, what their care was like, or what the people were like. So basically, and he refused to come closer to me. He wanted to be in the area that he lived for like 30, 40 years. So he stayed in the retirement home, near his home, but not near me. And because of COVID, I wasn't able to go and check on him. I was able to ring him, but half the time I wasn't able to get through to him on the phone because the place that he was staying at never answered the phone, or hardly ever answered the phone. Anyway, when I did get to speak to him, he was always complaining about they're not coming, I need to go to the toilet, I'm cold, I'm this, I'm that, the other. And then he started to say, I just want to get out of here. Well, this is when I got very concerned. Anyway, the day later, I tried to ring him and they didn't answer the phone. I tried to ring him for 3 days in a row. My sister also tried to ring the retirement home, plus my cousin. No answer. We couldn't get through to anyone. I then had a phone call 3 days later saying that my uncle had passed away. I was not notified that he was ill or that he was declining, didn't get the opportunity to go and hold his hand as he passed, so I was furious. But anyway, it's all due to COVID and the fact that I wasn't able to find him a decent retirement home with decent people and decent care. Yes, he was stubborn, he wouldn't come to the one in my area, which I know is very good because I volunteer there. But anyway, that's life, and that's what happens when people get older. They just won't listen part of the time. So one thing I've learned out of this is to listen. Listen to your family. Listen to what they say and what their reasons are. Anyway, part 3 on its way.